Hi guys, it's Abby, and this is a video on intercepted signs in the natal chart. And I decided to do this as a screen recording so I could show you an example of a chart with intercepted signs and planets. And also I could show you a good place to get a free chart for yourself if you haven't done so already. So I'm just going to start by bringing up my browser and going to astro.com. This is a website called Astrodienst. It's really old and you can make a free account here and you can keep, I think it's up to 100 free natal charts at a time. So I'm already logged in because I've had this account for a while. So I'm going to go to My Astro. And I'm actually going to bring up my own chart, which is the first one, because I have intercepted planets and signs. And I'm going all the way down to extended chart selection. Okay. And I'm just going to bring up my natal chart wheel. I just wanted to make a note here. House systems, the default that you would normally come to is going to be the same thing as Placidus. That's the most commonly used one. And the only reason mine comes up as Pollock Page is because I have my own defaults set a little bit differently according to my preferences. And Pollock Page is actually pretty much the same thing as Placidus in every region except the polar regions. Placidus does not work in the polar regions, but Pollock and Page does. So that's why I happen to use Pollock and Page. But it's really the same. Like, I don't think there's literally a single difference between Placidus and Pollock Page in my personal chart. However, you'll only have interceptions with certain house systems. Placidus, yes. Coke does. But certain things like equal house system will never give you intercepted signs because equal is just what it sounds like. It's an equal house degree. So if you have like 30 degrees per house, you can't have any intercepted signs. I'm just going to show you what I'm talking about. So if we go to show the chart under Pollock Page, I'll show you what an intercepted sign is. Okay, so this is my chart. So if you look here, this is the ascendant right here. I have that in Pisces in the first house cusp. And then here's Aries. And then here's the second house cusp and it's in Taurus. So Aries is an intercepted sign because its entire 30 degrees is within one house. And always opposite one intercepted sign is another. So over here, I've got Virgo on my descendant, and then if we go to the 8th house, I've got Scorpio on the cusp of the 8th house. So Libra is entirely encapsulated into the 7th house, and therefore it is intercepted. Now I'm just going to go back real quick and show you that if we chose equal house system, I would not have an interception, because the first house it would be in Pisces, the second house 30 degrees later in Aries, third house 30 degrees later in Taurus, etc. So you can't have interceptions in this specific house system. Oops. I'm going to go back to my old Pollock Page. So with that in mind, when things change according to the house system you use, I always take that with a grain of salt because the most important things in your chart, they'll never change according to a house system, like your signs that your planets are in. Those will never change. The aspects they make, those do not change. So you know, these are the most important things that you have to keep in mind. If you have a planet that's near another house, like for example, if you look at my Leo moon here, it's in the 6th house, but in some house placements, it goes into the 5th, which is the natural house for Leo. So I don't really pay it too much mind, the fact that it's in this house. I don't like obsess over my 6th house moon. because sometimes it's in the 5th house. And house systems are for another day, it's a different subject, but you use the one that resonates the most with you. And I know people that use different ones. Like, there's many different good ones. Porphyry is a great one. I really like what it's about, but I just happen to use this one. So getting back to interceptions, there's 2 theories about intercepted signs. And the first one, the most common one, is that the energy of that sign is dormant for you. There's some sort of blockage for you to express that energy. And oftentimes people say that it's because, in a past life you didn't get to express that energy, or because if you don't believe in past lives, in your childhood you were somehow suppressed. And you have to look at the sign that's intercepted to determine how the suppression happened. So for me, because it's Aries, it would be a suppression of my ability to assert myself as an individual. And since Libra is intercepted, it would be an inability to learn give and take and equality within one-on-one relationships. And because signs are on this sort of axis here where they have similar things, similar themes, the one is usually a result of the other. So for this one, Aries, the inability to assert yourself or assert your own needs, because Aries is about the self, would result in an inability to give and take equally, Libra, because if you can't be yourself as an individual, then you can't be a very good partner. And that's kind of common sense. So that goes for all the signs, but there's another theory that I prefer when it comes to interceptions, and it's the evolutionary astrology theory that if you have an intercepted sign, then that was a theme that you perhaps already explored in a past life, and the reason that it isn't prominent in your chart in this life is because you no longer need to explore those themes. Like, basically it's something that you're already an expert in, kind of like the south node, the south lunar node in your chart. So for me, you can't see my south node on this. Actually, I'll just go in and add it so you can see it. Okay, so the south node for me is in 11th house Aquarius, so that's something that's been done to death for me, and the lunar nodes are kind of like your path forward and your path behind you. So the south node is something you've already excelled at. You don't need to do it, and if you do it, you're kind of copping out, basically. So that is the theory, the evolutionary theory with intercepted planets, that the reason you're not exploring that energy is because you don't have to anymore. You've already done it. Now, if you have planets in intercepted signs, then by the first theory, their energy is not easily able to be expressed. But with the second theory, it just means that you are already experiencing the energy so strongly that you really don't have to worry about it. And for me, I think that's very true, because I have 4 planets in 1st house Aries. I have 3 planets in 7th house Libra. I don't need any more Aries Libra exploration. It's already something that comes naturally to me. I've had a lot of relationship experience, which is probably a given considering that I have this sort of hourglass figure of oppositions between Aries and Libra and 1st house, 7th house. So, relationships are something that I have already had plenty of experience in. I don't really feel like that's uncharted territory, but perhaps when I was a child I did. I just don't remember anymore. So, for me, I would say that's not an issue. But if you, for example, had let's say this interception happened, but none of these planets were in 1st house or 7th house. So pretend like this whole hourglass thing was happening, I don't know, somewhere over here. If it was empty, so if you have an empty intercepted sign in your chart, then you have to look at the sign's ruler to determine whether or not that energy is fully integrated into your life. So Aries, for example, is ruled by Mars, and Libra is ruled by Venus. And let's pretend that this little stellium was like over here in Aquarius, and this whole house was empty, and this whole house was empty. So I would look and see how well integrated are these two planets into my chart. And for me, again, they're really well integrated because Mars is conjunct Venus and the Sun, and anything conjunct the Sun is a very prominent part of your chart. Plus, they have this really strong opposition to Pluto, and they have this trine to Neptune, my midheaven, and to my moon, which is another really significant planet in the chart. So for me, those energies are really well integrated. But let's say you had, like, pretend this was intercepted Aquarius, and I had no planets in it. We would look to the planet Uranus because that's the natural ruler of Aquarius. And here, I mean, Uranus is not well integrated in my chart. Yes, it is conjunct my part of fortune, so just pretend that that doesn't exist. I'm just going to put the little mouse hand over it, so pretend that that's not there. And if you see there's like one sextile, and I mean technically in my chart that sextile doesn't even count. That's just like a mathematical orb that Astrology's calculated. And so that's like a really poorly integrated planet in my chart. So in that case, the Aquarian intercepted energy would still need to be explored. Now, with that said, there's two things to say. So if you have this unexplored intercepted sign in your chart with no planets in it, the first thing you have to understand is that the gateway, or the house ruler of your intercepted sign, is the one that actually controls the house it's in. So for this one, my first house ruler is Pisces, and therefore Neptune, right up here. So this is my chart ruler because the ascendant ruler is your chart ruler. So Neptune is my chart ruler, and it basically is like, it's like the landlord of the first house. It owns the property, and all of these Aries planets have to pay rent and ask Neptune, can I paint the walls blue? And Neptune can say, no, but you can paint them violet. That's kind of how that works. Like, they don't own their own house. They're living in a room in Neptune's house. And that's kind of the typical explanation of an intercepted planet. But for me, obviously, the ascendant is the filter through which everything comes through in everybody's chart. So that kind of goes without saying. So if you have like a different house, like maybe second house, and you have an intercepted sign, that energy has to go through whatever the energy is on the cusp in order to be expressed. So that's one way to look at your energies there. But again, I have a bunch of planets in Aries. I'm pretty Aries as it comes. Like, I don't come across as it because I have a Pisces rising and people don't see that at first, but I'm very Aries, and I have a lot of Libra as well because I've got these oppositions, which are naturally Aries Libra energy. I've got all these planets in Libra in 7th house. So I really, even if it doesn't appear that way at first because of my AC/DC line, it's still the way it is, I promise you. So for me specifically, that's not really an issue. But again, if you don't have any planets in your intercepted sign, and your intercepted sign's ruler is not well integrated, it's kind of a weak part of your chart, it doesn't make more than one aspect or two aspects, and they're not to like your sun or your moon, then that energy can be explored a few different ways in your life. So don't despair. The number one way is through transits. And I'm just going to go up here and hit this little with transits button so I can show you what I mean, because I happen to have an outer planet transit going through my Aries intercepted sign right now. And this is the planet Uranus. And the further out a planet is, so the outer planets, so maybe Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, those planets are very slow moving, and those are the best energies for unlocking or sort of unzipping an intercepted sign as it moves through it. So even if I didn't have all these natural planets in my intercepted sign, I would be having Aries unlocked right now because Uranus is the planet, it's literally called the Awakener. So I would be awakened in my Aries energy. Not that I need to be now, but you know, if you had no planets in here and you have a very slow moving transit like that, that's a perfect way to unlock and access those energies. And another way is through progressions. And I can't just click a button and show you progressions on here, but I will just go to my progress chart real quick to show you what a progression is. I'm actually going to go to Natal chart and progress chart to show you. Progressions are basically your natal chart sped up one day for every year you've been born. So they move very slowly. As you can see, the outer planets like Pluto don't change because they're such slow movers. Really, usually nothing happens to any of your outer planets. But the inner planets very slowly move, and the ascendant and midheaven, all the angles very slowly move. So right now you can see like my sun is in Taurus. The moon is the fastest mover, and my moon is unfortunately in Scorpio 8th house right now, which is just a lovely time for everybody. But you know, let's say that Scorpio in my chart was intercepted. The progressed moon moving through Scorpio will unlock it because the progressed moon takes 2.5 years to progress through a sign. So that's a really long time to intimately experience the energy of that sign. So no matter who you are, no matter what you have in your chart, eventually you're gonna have to deal with all the energies of it. Even like in my chart, obviously there's not a whole lot of fourth quadrant activity, so that's the 10th, 11th, and 12th houses. For me personally, that's not a huge deal because I have South Node in Aquarius, so obviously I had plenty of that experience in a past life, or I just don't need anymore. And I have currently Pluto moving through my 10th and now 11th house. So, I mean, that's unlocking all that Capricorn 10th house energy. And 12th house, I don't really need any more experience in because I have a Pisces rising with a very prominent Neptune. Neptune is right here at the very top of my chart, conjunct my midheaven, and it's part of this sort of grand fire trine. I took the orbs off so you can't see that trines. And I also have like I think Vesta over here that makes a perfect grand fire trine. But Neptune is at the top of it, so Neptune is very well integrated. Pisces is well integrated, and that is the energy of the 12th house. So, you know, I experience that plenty. So you just kind of have to look at your chart. You have to look at it organically. You have to look at it as a whole. You can't pick apart little things and say, oh, I don't have anything in my 4th house. Does that mean that I don't experience that energy? Of course not. You know, you have to look at everything about your chart, and you have to see what parts you have too much of. Like I have too much fire, I would say, and the parts that you're weak in, but how you can make up for that. So anyway, that's my little story. That's my chart. You've seen every part of it now, and that's intercepted signs and planets. So if you guys have any questions about it, I will do my best to answer them in the comments. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to me for more. And one more thing I just want to show you guys. I do, if you want like a personal reading, because I can't really answer a lot of your questions in depth on YouTube, I do personal readings. And if you just go to my website, which is abbyharmony.net, and this is just my little astrology blog here, but if you go up here to book a reading, you can see the options that I offer for you. I do basic readings for pretty cheap, and that's not really like, I wouldn't go into intercepted planets with that, but if you already know your basics and you didn't want like a full comprehensive natal chart reading, you just wanted to know about your chart rulers, say, or you just wanted to know about your intercepted planets and signs, you could order a basic reading for me and just email me and tell me exactly what you want, because I'm really accommodating and I'll do whatever you want me to do. So that's it, and I hope you guys learned a little bit about intercepted signs and planets and this helps you, and thank you for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye!